the Mercedes-Benz EQE SUV, a car that stands as living proof that the best or nothing can sometimes just be nothing. Mercedes used to be the gold standard for status and presence. When a Mercedes pulled up, it commanded the room. But then I saw the EQE SUV, and suddenly the boss looks like they're driving a high-tech orthopedic shoe. This car is the poster child for what happens when you let a wind tunnel and a spreadsheet design a vehicle, instead of a human being with a soul. Mercedes became so obsessed with a drag coefficient that they accidentally engineered the most boring, uninspired, and soggy-looking vehicle in automotive history. And yet, if you watch the professional reviews, it's like we're living in two different universes. You'll see journalists calling this design sleek, evolutionary, and attractive. One even called it stunning in Patagonia red. Really? Are we looking at the same car? It's far from an amazing-looking vehicle. It's a lumpy, generic, over-engineered appliance. But of course, they won't tell you it looks like a melted bar of soap. If they actually said what we're all thinking, they'd never be invited to a Mercedes presentation again. I'll stick to the truth. I've been scouring the forums, and the internet hasn't just been mean, it's been lethal. On Reddit and the Mercedes boards, this car doesn't even go by its own name. It's the Jellybean, the melted suppository, or my personal favorite, the sad dead slug. Seriously, look at it. Enthusiasts are calling it an expensive, soulless appliance. One user famously said it looks like a car that was left in the microwave for 3 minutes too long. Even the die-hard Mercedes loyalists, people with 3 pointed stars tattooed on their soles, are jumping ship because they can't stand to be seen in a car that looks like a giant thumb. The design has been such a disaster that Mercedes-Benz themselves have basically admitted defeat. They're already pivoting away from the EQ look because they finally realized that we don't want to pay $80,000 for a sculpted bar of soap. We want a car, not a computer mouse on wheels. But this blob silhouette is just the beginning of the nightmare. To truly show you why this car is a design tragedy, I have to start the autopsy at the face. Or rather, the lack of one. I'm looking at the front of this EQE SUV, and I honestly can't tell if it's a luxury car or a high-end refrigerator from the year 2005. It has this massive, blank, black panel where a proud Mercedes grille used to be. It's not a grille, it's just a giant piece of shiny plastic that's destined to be a graveyard for bugs and rock chips. On the forums, people aren't calling it a design feature. They're calling it a plastic mask for a car that's too ashamed to show its real face. And the headlights? They're derpy in the worst way possible. They're pushed so far back and swept into the fenders that it gives the car this permanent look of utter confusion. It doesn't have the sharp, focused eyes of a GLE or an S-Class. Instead, it looks like it just stepped out of a dark room and is squinting at the sun. One guy on Reddit hit the nail on the head. He said it looks like a Honda Civic from 10 years ago got stung by a bee and had an allergic reaction. The whole front end is just swollen, there's no definition. It's just one continuous, doughy curve from the hood to the bumper. And these fake air intakes, they are the ultimate automotive lie. They've got these massive, aggressive-looking scoops on the bottom of the bumper that are completely blocked off with solid black plastic. It's the car equivalent of wearing a padded muscle suit to the beach. It's not sporty, it's insecure. It's pretending to be an AMG while having the aerodynamics of a thumb. Then you have those professional journalists. They'll point to the tiny, star pattern embedded in the plastic and call it intricate and premium. Give me a break. It's a glorified piece of Tupperware that is a financial landmine. If a pebble hits that giant slab of plastic on the highway, you aren't just replacing a grille, you're replacing a high-tech housing for a dozen sensors. I've seen owner reports where a simple front panel replacement costs as much as $8,500. You could buy a whole used car for the price of fixing the face of this masterpiece. Mercedes, really? You took the most iconic face in automotive history and replaced it with a glorified piece of plastic that costs a fortune to fix and looks like it's still rendering. Moving to the side profile doesn't exactly offer a better angle. It just gives you a wider view of the disaster. If the front is a plastic mask, the side profile is where the EQE SUV officially becomes the sad dead slug. Mercedes calls this the one-bow design, but let's be real. It's a 6,000-pound melted jellybean. There is absolutely no tension, no muscle, and zero character lines. It's just one long, sagging curve that makes the car look like it's slowly losing a battle with gravity. I have to mention the pop-out door handles. Mercedes thinks these are futuristic, but they're actually a nightmare. On the forums, owners are losing their minds because the sensors are so glitchy you basically have to inappropriately caress the door handle for 5 minutes just to get it to unlock. It's a motorized gimmick that adds weight, cost, and a 100% chance of failing the moment your warranty expires. But my favorite part of this masterpiece has to be the windshield fluid flap. This is the ultimate piece of over-engineering gone wrong. Because Mercedes apparently thinks we're too stupid to look at an electric motor, you aren't allowed to open the hood. It's locked. So, if you need to refill your wiper fluid, you have to pop this weird, awkward little plastic drawer out of the front fender. It looks like a misplaced SIM card tray for a giant smartphone. It ruins the lines of the fender and looks like a total afterthought, as if they forgot the fluid until the car was on the assembly line and just cut a hole in the side. Then there's the big back stance. Because the batteries are packed into the floor, the whole body sits awkwardly high, but the roofline is dumped low for aero. The result? The car looks like it's wearing a belt that's pulled up way too high. It has the proportions of a high-tech orthopedic shoe. And don't even get me started on the wheel fitment. Even with the 21-inch AMG wheels, the car looks like it's tiptoeing. There is so much slab on the side of this car that the wheels look tiny, like they were borrowed from a C-Class. It doesn't look planted. It looks like it's hovering, and not in a cool, sci-fi way, more in a my suspension is broken way. And the professional journalists, they're still at it. They'll tell you the side profile is slippery and efficient. Slippery? Of course, it's slippery. There's nothing on the side for the wind to even catch onto. It's a featureless void. It's the automotive equivalent of a beige wall. Mercedes used to design cars with waistlines and haunches. Now you're just selling us an inverted bathtub and calling it luxury. It's not minimalist, it's just lazy and ugly. Finally, we reach the rear of the EQE SUV, the place where Mercedes design officially went to die. If you thought the front was a plastic mask, the back is just a featureless void. I'm looking at the rear end, and I honestly can't tell if I'm following a luxury SUV or a generic rental car from a dystopian future. It's got that signature EQ light bar that runs across the middle, but it's so thin and uninspired that it looks like a single glowing thread holding the whole car together. On the forums, it is named the monobrow of shame. There's no 3D depth, no intricate detail, just a flat red line that says, "We spent all the budget on the interior screens and ran out of money for the tailgate." And let's talk about the rear window. Or should I call it the gunslit? It is so tiny and raked so aggressively that rear visibility is basically non-existent. You aren't looking out of a window, you're peering through a mailbox slot. One guy on Reddit said he has to rely entirely on the cameras because the view out the back is just ceiling and headrests. It's form over function at its absolute worst, except, again, there is no form. But the real masterpiece of the rear end is the bottom half. Because it's an EV, there are obviously no exhaust pipes. But Mercedes couldn't just leave it clean, could they? No, they decided to add these massive chrome loops at the bottom of the bumper that look like fake exhaust tips. Why? It's the ultimate automotive lie. You're driving a silent electric car, but you've got these shiny plastic rectangles pretending to be pipes. It's like a vegan wearing a shirt that says, "I love bacon." It's confusing, it's fake, and it's just plain embarrassing. It makes the whole car look like a generic computer mouse from 2004 that someone accidentally stepped on. It's bulbous, it's doughy, and it has zero Mercedes presence. There is no wide stance, no flared haunches, no get-out-of-my-way attitude. It just looks soft, like a marshmallow that's been sitting in the sun. And don't listen to those professional journalists. They'll call the rear clean and integrated. Translation, it's boring. It's so anonymous that you could lose it in a Costco parking lot in about 3 seconds. Mercedes used to make the most recognizable rear ends in the business. Now you're giving us a bloated hatchback that looks like it was designed by a committee that was afraid of straight lines. So here's the final verdict on the $80,000 orthopedic shoe that is the Mercedes EQE SUV. We are looking at a car that is so visually indefensible that Mercedes-Benz, a company that usually takes 50 years to change a door handle, has already decided to kill it off. That's right. As of late 2025, the reports are in. The EQE and its sedan brother are being taken behind the barn and put out of their misery by 2026. Mercedes is literally abandoning the soap-shaped design language because they realize that their customers have eyes. It is the ultimate, the best or nothing fail. They chased a drag coefficient of 0.25 so hard that they accidentally built a car that looks like it's still in the loading phase of a video game. It's an $80,000 participation trophy for aerodynamics. And don't let the professional journalists fool you with their talk of sensual purity and sleek minimalism. They are the same people who will tell you a beige wall is understated if you give them a free weekend in a spa. They'll praise the star-patterned plastic mask while ignoring the fact that it costs $8,500 to replace if a pebble hits it. In the end, the EQE SUV is a car for people who want the Mercedes badge, but don't want any of the Mercedes soul. It's a melted jellybean that was engineered by a wind tunnel and approved by a committee that was clearly terrified of being too aggressive. Mercedes learned their lesson the hard way. If you make a car look like a sad dead slug, people will treat it like one and walk right past it. If you think the EQE was an identity crisis, wait until you see what they've done to the compact segment. Watch the full autopsy of the new 2026 GLB, where Mercedes tries to convince us that a boxy Nissan Cube with a three-pointed star and enough ambient lighting to power a Vegas strip club is peak luxury. If you're sick of getting fed corporate nonsense, hit subscribe, smash that like, and share this with anyone thinking about dropping 80 grand on a Jellybean.